Don't watch this alone. Fatal Familial Insomnia, the disease that steals sleep. A man sits upright in bed at 4 in the morning, eyes wide open, staring at the wall. The room is dark. The house is silent. He has not slept, not for 1 full hour, in over 4 months. His body is exhausted. His mind will not let him rest. By the time doctors finally understood what was happening to him, it was already too late to stop it. This is fatal familial insomnia, one of the rarest, most aggressive neurological disorders ever documented in medical history. It has no cure, it has no survivors, and once it begins, the disease follows almost exactly the same 4 stages every single time. Picture a quiet bedroom, lit only by the blue glow of a digital clock reading 3:47 a.m. A man lies completely still, but his eyes are open. His chest rises and falls steadily. He is not tired in the way you or I understand tired. He is past that. His brain has simply stopped allowing him to cross into sleep. Not for minutes, not for hours, but for months at a time. Fatal Familial Insomnia, or FFI, was first formally documented in the 1970s and 80s, after a family in northern Italy began noticing a horrifying pattern repeating across generations. Relatives in their late 40s and 50s would begin losing the ability to sleep. Within a year, almost without exception, they were dead. The cause, when researchers finally identified it, was almost stranger than the symptoms themselves. FFY is caused by a mutation in a gene called PRNP, the same gene responsible for producing prion proteins. Under normal conditions, these proteins fold into a specific, stable shape and function harmlessly throughout the body. But in FFI, the mutation causes the protein to misfold. And once one protein misfolds, it triggers nearby proteins to misfold too. A slow, irreversible chain reaction spreading through brain tissue like a crack traveling through glass. The proteins accumulate specifically in the thalamus, the part of the brain responsible for regulating sleep. As the prion damage spreads, the thalamus is slowly destroyed from the inside. The disease moves through 4 distinct stages, and medical literature documents them with chilling consistency from patient to patient. Stage 1 begins quietly. Insomnia worsens. Panic attacks emerge seemingly out of nowhere. Patients report unexplained phobias, fear that wasn't there months earlier. This stage typically lasts around 4 months, and at this point many patients are misdiagnosed with anxiety disorders because on paper the symptoms look psychological rather than neurological. Stage 2 is where the disease becomes unmistakable. Hallucinations begin. Patients experience extreme panic attacks that can last for hours. Sleep, actual restorative sleep, becomes almost entirely impossible. This stage can last around 5 months. By now, family members typically describe watching someone they love slowly disappear behind exhaustion and fear that medication cannot touch. A close shot of a hand trembling slightly on a kitchen table. A cup of coffee, untouched, gone cold. Outside the window, daylight, but for this patient, day and night have stopped meaning anything at all. Stage 3 brings a complete inability to sleep. Patients lose significant weight rapidly because the body's normal restorative cycles have been disrupted entirely. This stage lasts roughly 3 months, and it's often the period where rapid physical decline becomes visible to anyone who sees the patient. Hollowed cheeks, trembling hands, a kind of exhaustion that goes beyond anything sleep deprivation alone could cause. Stage 4 is dementia. The patient becomes unresponsive, withdrawn, and eventually mute. This final stage lasts around 6 months before death occurs, typically from complications related to total physical and cognitive collapse, rather than the insomnia itself directly. From first symptom to death, the average timeline runs between 12 and 18 months. There is no known cure. There is no treatment that meaningfully halts the disease's progression once it begins. Sedatives don't work. Patients remain conscious and aware even during attempts at sedation because the part of the brain responsible for losing consciousness has already begun to fail. What makes FFI especially disturbing is the word right there in its name, familial. This disease is inherited, passed down through families via an autosomal dominant gene mutation, meaning a child of someone carrying the mutated gene has a 50% chance of inheriting it too. Some family members have made the agonizing decision to undergo genetic testing in their 20s or 30s, only to learn they're carrying a mutation that will, with near certainty, eventually take their life in exactly the same way it took their parents. Imagine knowing, with documented medical certainty, that somewhere in your future, maybe at 45, maybe at 50, your ability to sleep will simply stop, and within a year and a half, you'll be gone. That knowledge alone has been described by affected family members as its own kind of psychological burden, separate entirely from the disease itself. One of the most extensively documented cases in modern medical literature is referred to in scientific papers simply as DF, a patient whose case was tracked meticulously from his first symptoms in his early 50s through to his death. Researchers monitored his sleep patterns using specialized equipment and found something remarkable. His brain was attempting to enter sleep, generating the early electrical patterns associated with the first stage of rest, and then abruptly stopping again and again throughout the night. His brain wanted to sleep. The thalamic damage simply wouldn't let it finish the process. A dimly lit hospital room, a heart rate monitor beside the bed shows a steady, healthy rhythm, completely at odds with the visible exhaustion on the patient's face. Outside the door, a clipboard hangs from a hook, case notes clip neatly inside, real notes, a real diagnosis, a real family waiting for answers that medicine still can't fully provide. For now, families carrying this mutation face an almost unbearable choice: test and know, or live without knowing, while quietly watching for the first signs in themselves or the people they love most. Picture a kitchen table set for dinner, food untouched, chairs empty except for one. A man sits alone staring at a plate he has no appetite for, the clock on the wall behind him reading well past midnight. His laptop is open beside him, the screen showing a half-finished search, symptoms of inherited insomnia. He has watched a parent go through every stage of this disease already. He knows exactly what each new symptom in himself might mean, and that knowledge is its own quiet horror, separate from the disease itself. Genetic counselors who work with FFI families describe a phenomenon sometimes called anticipatory grief, grieving in advance for a version of yourself that you fear is coming, sometimes decades before any symptom appears. Some family members choose genetic testing specifically so they can plan, deciding whether to have children of their own, deciding how to spend the years they're fairly confident they'll have. Others choose not to test at all, preferring uncertainty over a confirmed countdown. One particularly well-documented case followed a woman in her early 50s whose family carried the mutation across 3 known generations. Researchers tracked her sleep using polysomnography. The recordings showed something almost unbearable to read in the case notes: brief, fragmented bursts of the earliest stage of sleep, lasting only seconds at a time, repeating throughout the night without ever deepening into anything restorative. Her brain wasn't refusing to try. It was trying, over and over, and failing every single time. A wide, slow shot of an empty bed at dawn, sheets barely disturbed, light beginning to creep through the curtains. Somewhere in the house, footsteps, slow, deliberate, exhausted, pace back and forth across a hallway floor. The same route walked hundreds of times through the night because lying still only makes the wakefulness feel louder. Researchers studying FFY have made one particularly important discovery. This disease belongs to the same prion family responsible for other devastating neurological conditions, including Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. That connection has actually opened new research pathways. Because anything that helps scientists understand how prions misfold and spread in one disease may eventually help researchers understand and potentially treat all of them. Some experimental treatments targeting prion proteins directly are currently being studied, though none has yet proven effective enough to alter the course of FFY in human patients. There's also an extremely rare, non-inherited version of this same disease, called Sporadic Fatal Insomnia, which appears to occur randomly, without any family history at all, through a spontaneous mutation in the same gene. Fewer than 24 cases have ever been documented worldwide. It runs an almost identical course to the inherited version, the same 4 stages, the same prion buildup in the thalamus, the same outcome. The only difference is that for these patients, there's no warning sign buried in a family tree. It simply happens. It's a disease built entirely around something every one of us takes completely for granted: the simple, automatic ability to close our eyes and rest. For everyone affected by fatal familial insomnia, that ability is the very first thing the disease takes, and it never gives it back. This has been a real documented medical case. Every detail in this video is sourced from peer-reviewed medical literature and confirmed clinical case studies. Dark Diagnosis Files investigates the cases medicine still struggles to explain. Every Thursday and every Sunday. Real, documented, told with the gravity they deserve. New cases every Thursday and Sunday. Subscribe. Your body is stranger than you think. Somewhere tonight, someone with this mutation is trying to sleep. They will not succeed. For some, sleep is a journey they will never finish.